Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in and listening. We have Larry on his mountaintop, and we got kind of a weird show, I guess one could say. There's a lot of weird things going on, and I wanted to, first of all, Larry, how are you doing up there?
Oh, just adjusting my binoculars. There's a lot to look at.
Yeah, you even have to look at the heavens, too, nowadays. Find out what's going on. Anyway, I wanted to introduce part of what we're talking about. I wanted to talk about Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam was a project that Serge Monat from Canada introduced long time ago, and they murdered him because of it. At least that's all the indications that everybody has, that he was just taken out of the way. But anyway, in this Project Bluebeam, what he said was that they were going to use real UFOs coupled with holographic images of the Messiah arriving. And that's the main central thrust of Bluebeam, to introduce a fake Messiah to the entire world. Now I want to read from Thessalonians, even him who's coming is after the working of Satan. Now I want you to, who's coming, that's an arrival. After the workings of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion. So it's God who's doing this. He's teaming up, actually, with Satan to accomplish this, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Now this is very, very interesting, because what they're talking about here is an arrival. You'll find that same arrival in Revelation chapter 12, the great red dragon, Satan, who deceiveth the whole world, is cast down. Alternative 3 is a very interesting book, and that involved massive UFO anti-gravity operations, deep space programs that have been going on for many, many years, plenty of time to plan and then execute a false arrival. An arrival where the UFOs land and contact is made. In the book Phoenix Rising by Mary Summer Rain, where she interviews No Eyes, talks about this arrival and how they have proof with them that the Bible basically is a pack of lies. And then we had Dr. Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project, said also that they were planning a fake arrival. And so you've got New Age that does this, and they don't call it fake. They think this is all real. And then, of course, you got the Native American Star Nation people and arrival. Well, this kind of ties in maybe with a report that came out, and I want Larry to jump in right here. Gigantic metallic object next to the sun. Evidently, it's a whole lot more than just one of them. Is this a reason for the evacuation of a solar observatory and a whole bunch of others going dark? What do you think, Larry, about this thing?
Well, it certainly is a mystery, as Lou Dobbs called it tonight on Fox Business News. That was how he started his show, actually, which I was taken back because, we'd been looking at this all day and looking at the data. You had the steel shot and also the video, and I had forwarded that to Richard Shaw and Stan Dale both, and they both replied, and, I think I forwarded you their replies at the time with Stan Dale saying it reminded him of the movie V. And, what's so interesting is Lou Dobbs was going to have General Jack Keane, I think, make a comment on it, and he didn't do that. And but Lou Dobbs basically said, he said, we have a mystery on our hands, folks. He said, the FBI, we know, went to the Sunspot Observatory in Arizona and went in and shut it down and took control. The FBI took control of that observatory, and most of it's below ground. And he says, we want to know why. And he says, we've contacted the FBI, and they says they will not talk about it. They didn't say it wasn't anything to it. They said, we won't talk about it. And what's interesting, Stan Dale made the comment, and you've got the email there, of all the other observatories dealing with the sun and the cams that have been suddenly taken down or removed over the last few days. Something
and that was verified by Zero Hedge, too. That was vetted out, I guess. It's become known that 6 more solar observatories, Australia, Chile, Spain, Hawaii, 2 of them in Hawaii, and Pennsylvania, have been shut down. We note that all of these solar space cams are down at the same time as a solar observatory in New Mexico. Now, if you just had the one, you could say, well, maybe there's some guy in there that brought in a gun, he's shooting people, and therefore it's a big security issue. When you have 6 or more go down, there's something else going on. And the reason they probably won't comment on it may be because of what they've already seen coming in. That would be my take on it. If you have an arrival, a fake arrival, and these are material objects that we have built through the auspices of Satan and his minions giving us the technology, we're going to spot an arrival. We're going to spot them before they get here. So the pictures and the video of this show multitudes of objects. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Well, it's really interesting, Stuart, and if people want to see what we call the Mothership looks like, they can absolutely go to my blog today. I've got it, right at the top under our radio show, and there's the image, and there also, I believe I put a couple of links. I actually posted it on the Yahoo group with links that people can go watch the video. This is astounding stuff. I mean, and what's interesting, Stuart, Lou Dobbs said, this is interesting in the fact that when you go to the FBI and ask them about why they seized Sunspot, and suddenly all mainstream media is calling it conspiracy theories. You're having people call it a conspiracy theory because you asked one single question of the FBI? Stuart, this is so much smoke, there has to be fire.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that this wordage, conspiracy theory, was part of the CIA, NASA, to debunk truth. They're the ones who came up with this. So when they use stuff like conspiracy theory, they're trying to debunk something that's critically important. I'd also point out the timeline with this is we just passed 9/11. And a lot of people said, well, nothing happened on 9/11. There you go again. Well, I think a lot happened on 9/11, probably in the unseen realm of things. But we are definitely already seeing another hit. And I guess you can't say that the Lord did it. But I can say the Lord did it. But the world will never say the Lord did it. Because if they would say something like that, they'd be acknowledging, number one, there is a God. Number two, they haven't repented. Number three, they're being spanked. And they don't want to ever say that. And, as like we have said before, Larry, a repentance isn't in the vocabulary anymore. It's been redacted.
Yeah. What's interesting, Stuart, and I'd like your opinion on this when I get through, one of the things that just crossed my mind just now, the minute you were talking about this, was the verse of Scripture that says, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. And I thought, well, nobody ever thought of looking to the sun for any kind of, or something around the sun, for any kind of closeness of redemption. I thought that's a bizarre for me to think of that suddenly. But, Stuart, I also sent you, and Richard Shaw had sent me a link to a video, it was actually a I guess you could say social media music and dance deal or whatever, but it blew me away when you watch it closely, Stuart. It's from the Dominican Republic. It's put together rather interestingly, and guess what? There's not really any dancing. There's not really all that much music in it. What they do is people begin to yell, "It's coming, it's coming," and then suddenly you hear, "It's here," and everybody rushes outside and looks up in the sky. What did you see, Stuart?
Yeah, you got this great big object in the sky that just suddenly appears. And people don't remember, but go and read Acts, where Jesus is ascending into the clouds. A fellow wrote a book about that, the clouds, but it was very, very interesting because if you're going to simulate in these movies that you see, like Independence Day, you always have these clouds that appear, and then the UFOs appear out of the clouds. Well, it says that Jesus ascended into the clouds, and they said his return will be likewise. So it's going to be very, very interesting when this snatching away, or a lot of people don't believe in the rapture of the church, but it's plainly stated over and over and over again. And if they can't read it, that's fine. Doesn't change my mind at all. As to when it is, you can argue that all day long. But when it does happen, it's going to be an instantaneous event. It is an arrival where the Christian church is literally vanishes. The arrival that we're talking about is where they land and contact is made. That's part of the delusion that I read to you in the scriptures. This is part of the strong delusion that they're going to come back and actually land on planet Earth. And, of course, people, because they're totally apostate from the scriptures, not everyone, obviously, but a good majority of them are, they're going to fall for this. They're going to go for it. I think that's why Jesus said, "Behold, if they say he's in the desert, go not forth. If he's here, go not forth. If he's there, go not forth." He's warning people. You're not going to be here. And if you are here and you have this fleet land, you know it's a fake. It's not any part of the removal of God's people. And that's the easiest way to remember it. Because Jesus said you're just going to be ripped out of here. It's a violent removal, literally, like a flash of lightning, twinkling of an eye. And the people that are going are gone that fast. This is an arrival, and it may well be that what they're spotting, and some of those things look huge, these spaceships and those pictures, right by the sun, coming around, literally, I guess, from the sun. Is that how you would interpret it? Looks like they've kind of been behind the sun for a while.
Yeah, a good place to hide out, I suppose. And what's so interesting, Stuart, is if it's not part of the Lord returning, it's the delusion part. That brings back old memories of Twilight Zone in the cookbook.
Yeah, to serve man. Yeah. It is a delusion, folks. There is coming an arrival. They talk about it a lot in your New Age books, your Native American books. They call them the Star People, and Native Americans call them Star Nation people or the Star People. Your New Age people call them the saviors, basically, of humanity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the Bible says it's a delusion. It's such a strong delusion that if you're not under the wings of Jesus Christ, you have no ability to withstand what's coming. You don't have it. You can't do it. You can't stand against it. It'll be that strong a delusion. Jesus calls it effectual. Well, if you look it up, it means absolutely strong. You won't be able to stand against it. That's another reason why we have been hammering, I'm sure Larry has too, get yourself under the wings of Jesus Christ. This is not a joke. This is real. And the Bible is all too real. It's just that we don't, with science and everything else coming against it, most people just don't pay any attention to it, which is too bad, Larry, because, it's a wonderful book. Even if all you wanted to do was know what was going on around you, it's a great book. It tells you everything. Got a question? Look it up. It's probably there. What else have you got? I mean, this thing really looks like the deception may be unraveling right before our very eyes.
Very interesting, Stuart, because Richard Shaw is looking at the details of that at the moment. And Stan Deyo has also been researching it and looking into it and providing us little information. But, when he did the book of Daniel and really went into the ancient language, he said that he just believed the arrival was absolutely imminent. Now, what that means, we don't know, but it certainly seems that with the time frame we're in, as you were saying, and we've entered now, apparently, the Israeli year of 5779, and so it makes you wonder, why did they not release a lot of the Torah codes of that time frame?
I think they're afraid to release them. I think of what they say. I got a little bit here of what Richard says. He's talking about these could be pixels that are, kind of distortions, and they're not really objects. But then he says that that probably can't be true. It fails the test. So he says, we don't know what these objects are. Isn't that interesting? He said they could be asteroids coming in from the Oort cloud, but they seem, if they are, they're huge. And one of them is clearly a UFO round circular object. You can see windows along the edge. You can see how it comes up, and there's a center dome, as most of these huge UFOs have. So I don't know. I can't tell people, that it's imminent, but something is coming. What do you think?
Well, I think, Stuart, that we need to always be watchful because of the fact that when you connect what they found with all of these observatory and those that are observing the sun, the solar arrays, and et cetera, the cams that stay on the sun and watch every move it makes being taken down or darkened and blackened, it just tells you there's something out there. Apparently, those that control these things don't want you to see. So I guess we just, me and you can do what we always do best, stick our nose in where it don't belong.
Yeah, that kind of irritates them, but that's kind of fun too. And Tyler Durbin of Zero Hedge, he said, just in case you were blowing off the tinfoil hat views of this observatory closure, we note that all these solar space cams went down at the same time. And he lists them all. Why would they go down at the same time? That's my question. There's something going on. And it's probably so big they don't want it out at all. Think of the panic, actually. Maybe it's a big asteroid thing that's coming through. We do have that asteroid thing. There's four asteroid showers that for whatever reason are going to merge in October, the first few days of October, which is Tabernacles. That's when we enter Feast of Tabernacles. And it just seems kind of odd to me that all of a sudden we're getting all this. Switching over to the hurricane. Over 12 trillion gallons of rain in North Carolina would have unprecedented results, experts say. Now, 12 trillion gallons, you have to multiply that by a little more than 8, so that would be 80 trillion, probably 100 trillion pounds dumped on North Carolina. We already had a little earthquake there. You want to tell us about that one?
Oh, yeah, that was really interesting. Early this morning, we had, as this storm was approaching the coast, we had a 2.6 magnitude earthquake in western South Carolina. And what's interesting is it was very shallow, and I posted it, and the Yahoo group refused to post the earthquake. It has never been posted, but it happened. And I asked you, I said, wonder if all of this movement of water and pressure coming in is beginning to move or shift these plates. And we don't know, but it's something to watch.
Oh, yeah, and it could cause a major earthquake not only there but elsewhere. And now I got a headline here. It says more than 68,000, and I think that's probably gone up to well over 100,000 people have already lost power there. And this thing just keeps on rolling. And I guess what has happened? Has it stalled pretty much?
Well, it had slowed to 5 miles an hour earlier, and they were saying that most meteorologists that were following this just simply didn't understand it at all. And then they began to say instead of a southerly direction, they're kind of expecting now that it may turn north. But they're really not sure, and it is only now, according to Fox, 85 miles east-southeast of, landfall. So that's not far, so I suppose it's sped up. But nobody seems to know what this is doing or really where it's going at all. But they're talking now, some areas maybe 4 feet of water.
Well, here's what's really interesting to me. FEMA ran a couple months ago a hurricane scenario on that area of the country as to what it would do and how much damage it would do, blah, 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 blah. Don't you find it a little interesting that a little bit later, here we have, it's one of these drills that constantly go live. Here's the headline on it. FEMA simulated a Cat 4 hurricane striking the East Coast just months before Florence. A fictional hurricane, Cora, was modeled to charge up Chesapeake Bay and strike Washington, D.C. And here we are. And they are saying that there's a possibility this thing may go north rather than south.
Yeah.
So, and there are those who are claiming that this is weather warfare, and what we're really watching here is, in fact, a weather warfare situation. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I think I mentioned this on our last program. U.S. destroyer arrives in the Mediterranean as Syrian tensions rise. Have you got any more news on what's going on over there? They're getting ready for war. There's no question about it.
Well, looking at it really closely, and I know we don't have much time left today, but you're accurate on that report. One of the things that's interesting is coming out of Israel. They're calling this time frame over there an uneasy quiet, if you will, a pause. But we don't know how long it'll last. But listen to this headline from Debka this morning. First U.S. F-35 warplanes deployed to Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. U.S. Naval, Air, and Marine forces are now preparing and using war games at unblocking Hormuz and Mandeb. So, Stuart, it sounds like to me if we are positioning to go after Iran.
Yeah, we have to, because Israel wants us to anyway. And they're mouthing off to Trump, and Trump's going to get into this thing. He'll get blamed for it. Obama is waiting in the wings. I reported on it before what he said. He's already announced he's the Messiah. He's told everybody he's the Messiah. He's done it very subtly. I remember the birthday thing that he did, and he introduced the Lion King movie he excerpted from the Lion King movie. Well, that's about the Antichrist. In fact, that's basically what that whole movie's about. So why would he use that? He's telling everybody who he is. He's just sitting back in the weeds. What we're watching is Psalm 2, and it's a stage play. So don't be surprised. I know a lot of people say, Obama will never come back. It's impossible, blah, 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 blah. Better be careful. He might be back. You're not going to want him back if you're still here, believe me. He has an intense hatred for Christians, and I believe an intense hatred for the United States and its Constitution. And he's part of the jihad. What do you think, Larry?
I think you're exactly right. What's interesting, too, is in the last couple of days, information came out revealing John Kerry's secret meetings, rogue meetings, if you will, with Iran's leadership. And basically he was attempting, according even to him, to salvage Obama's nuclear deal with Iran. He was a go-between between Obama, who really is a shadow government out there working as we speak, and Kerry is in the middle. Kerry is working for Obama, working with Iran, and downplaying and also diminishing the influence of Trump in Iran's eyes. And the only thing this does, Stuart, is probably produce in the long run a Daniel 8. What do you think?
Yep, absolutely. We're trying to force them to go to war, and then we got an excuse to hit them. And as far as going over and undermining Trump, that's a violation, number one, of the Logan Act. And number two, it's treason. There's no other word to use for that. That's what it is. I remember a book came out a long time ago that says, none dare call it treason. Well, it is treason. And in a lot of ways, we've had nothing but slow, creeping treason. You can't bring in the New World Order without throwing out the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and all that. And, they're going to try and force Trump into declaring martial law, and then when Obama comes back out, boom, it's over. And America goes down with a thud, like Dmitry Duduman's visions. When America goes down, it goes down with a thud. I think we're right on the doorstep. What do you think, Larry? I think it's right here.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what's so interesting, too, is there's a new Dave Hodges report out today. I forwarded, I think, a copy of that to you, the Common Sense Radio Show. Trump moves to counter a potential Red Dawn invasion of the USA. And basically what that says is the deep state and the Democrats and Obama and others have plans that if they are not able to remove Trump quickly, they're going to remove him by not only a coup, but a so-called invasion of their forces. And what's interesting at the same time, I wanted to get this in and get your opinion, is the fact that it's looking like now, they're reporting this thing only 85 miles offshore, moving possibly north now. It looks like in the zone, if it goes north, it's going to go over Jacksonville, North Carolina, and possibly right on up to Washington. We'll just have to watch.
Yep, I think, all we can do is watch. We don't know. The Lord of the Hand is definitely on it, like your friend over there in the Philippines has said, that the Lord definitely is involved in all of this, and he has an agenda, he has a plan, he's going to carry it out, folks, whether we like it or don't like it, doesn't matter. And tomorrow night we'll do a longer show and get into a little bit more of this stuff, particularly the arrival. I think that war, economic collapse, and arrival are kind of going to be hand in hand as America goes down with a thud. And we've warned about it. And hopefully Mark Taylor and Trump's 2 terms of 8 years is the truth. But we'll find out quick enough. Anyway, thanks a lot, Larry. And thanks, everybody, for listening. And tune in tomorrow night. And heads up. Take care. And good night.